I stood in the greeting card aisle longer than any man ever should. 10 minutes passed, then 20, then 30. At first, I pretended to read them carefully, like the words mattered. Like somewhere in this wall of pastel colors and scripted emotions, there would be one card capable of carrying the weight of 25 years. But the truth was, I wasn't reading anymore. I was staring at words written for people who still held hands without thinking, for people who didn't have to wonder when things changed, for people who didn't feel their marriage quietly slipping into something unfamiliar. I picked up a card that read, "To my beautiful wife, my best friend, my soulmate." I stared at it, because she was still all of those things, and somehow she wasn't. Not in the way she used to be. I set it back, picked up another. "Every day with you is my favorite day." I let out a quiet breath, because that wasn't true anymore either. Not because I didn't love her, but because somewhere in the last 2 years, the days had started to feel heavier, colder, lonelier, and the worst part? She hadn't done anything wrong. That was what made it unbearable. I wasn't angry. I wasn't betrayed. I was just losing something I didn't know how to save. 25 years earlier, none of this seemed possible. Back then, she had walked into my life like certainty itself. She was the kind of woman people noticed without understanding why. Not just beautiful, though she was. Not just smart, though she was that too. It was the way she made you feel seen. Like when she talked to you, the rest of the world stopped existing. And somehow, she chose me. I still remember the first night we stayed up until 3 a.m. talking in her apartment. We sat on opposite ends of her couch, afraid to sit too close, afraid to sit too far. Every sentence felt like a step onto fragile ice. Until somewhere between laughter and silence, she reached for my hand. Not dramatically, not nervously, just naturally, like it had always belonged there. That was the moment I knew. Not that we'd get married, not that we'd build a life together, but that losing her one day would destroy me. And yet here I was, standing in a grocery store, holding a card I couldn't buy. Because none of them told the truth. None of them said, "I miss you even when you're standing right in front of me." None of them said, "I'm terrified of becoming a stranger in your life." None of them said, "I love you so much that watching you disappear piece by piece is breaking me." I put the last card back. My hand was shaking, not from anger, from fear, because the truth was she hadn't left. She still slept beside me every night, still said good morning, still asked how my day was. But something invisible had grown between us. Something quiet, something patient, something that didn't care how much we loved each other. Exhaustion. It started 2 years ago. The job, her dream job, the one she had worked toward her entire life. The one no one had ever given her a chance at before. I still remember the phone call when she got the offer. Her voice trembling, not with doubt, with disbelief. "They chose me," she said, like she didn't think she deserved it. Like the world had finally seen what I'd known for decades. I was proud of her in a way words couldn't hold. I would have driven her there myself every morning if she asked, even though it was an hour away. An hour there, an hour back, 2 hours of her life, gone every day. I told myself it didn't matter, because dreams are worth sacrifices, even quiet ones. Then her mother died. It happened fast, too fast. One diagnosis, then hospital rooms, then machines, then silence. I watched my wife shrink in ways I couldn't stop. Not physically, emotionally. She stopped laughing the same way, stopped lingering in conversations, stopped existing fully in the present. Part of her had gone somewhere I couldn't follow, and I didn't blame her. How could I? Grief isn't something you fix. It's something you survive. Then came the health problems. The kind doctors couldn't explain clearly. The kind they treated with guesses. Trial and error. Mostly error. Medications that drained her energy. Treatments that promised relief but delivered nothing. Every night, she came home more exhausted than the last. Not just tired, empty, like the world had taken everything she had to give and left nothing for herself. Nothing for us. At first, I told myself it was temporary. A season. That word people use when they don't know how long something will last. Season. Like winter always becomes spring. Like distance always becomes closeness again. Like love always finds its way back. But seasons don't feel endless. This did. The first thing to disappear was affection. Not suddenly. Gradually. A hand not reached for. A moment missed. Until one day, I realized I couldn't remember the last time she touched me first. Not because she didn't love me, but because she had nothing left to give. And the part that hurt most wasn't physical. It was emotional. I missed being wanted, missed being chosen, missed being part of her world instead of something waiting outside it. One night, I lay awake beside her. She was asleep, breathing softly, peacefully, and I stared at the ceiling, wondering something I never thought I would. Not does she love me? I knew she did, but something worse. Will we survive this? I didn't say it out loud, because saying it would make it real. And I wasn't ready for that. Not yet. In the morning, she smiled at me like everything was normal. And I smiled back, like I wasn't falling apart quietly. Because loving someone sometimes means protecting them, even from the truth inside you. That night, I sat at the kitchen table alone, a blank card in front of me, a pen in my hand, and fear in my chest, because I realized something terrifying. I wasn't afraid of losing her to another person. I was afraid of losing her to her life. And I didn't know which was worse. I didn't plan to say it that night. There was no dramatic moment, no argument, no breaking point, just silence. The kind of silence that grows between two people who love each other but don't know how to reach each other anymore. She was standing at the kitchen counter, still in her work clothes. Her heels were off, sitting beside her like something she didn't have the strength to deal with. Her hair, once carefully styled in the morning, had surrendered to the day. Loose strands framed her face. She looked tired, not the kind of tired sleep fixes, the kind that lives deeper. I sat at the table, pretending to scroll through my phone, pretending I wasn't watching her, pretending I wasn't waiting. She opened the fridge, stared inside for a few seconds, then closed it without taking anything out. It wasn't hunger she was searching for. It was energy, and there was none left. She turned and gave me a small smile. "Hey," she said softly. The same word she'd said to me thousands of times before, but it didn't land the same anymore. "Hey," I replied. And that was it. That was our conversation. Two people who had once stayed up until sunrise talking now reduced to a single word exchange. She walked over slowly and sat beside me. Close, but not touching. I noticed that. I always notice that now. "You okay?" she asked. The question was simple, but it carried weight, because she wasn't asking casually. She knew. She had known for a while. She could feel it. The distance. The sadness I tried to hide. The parts of me that had started going quiet. I nodded automatically. "Yeah," I said. The lie tasted familiar. She looked at me for a second longer than usual, like she was deciding whether to believe me, or whether to ask again. She didn't. She just nodded and looked down at her hands. And that's when I realized something. She was afraid too, not of losing me, but of confirming what she already knew, that we were drifting, and neither of us knew how to stop it. We stayed like that for a while. Two people sitting inches apart, feeling miles away. I could hear the clock on the wall, ticking, each second louder than the last. Time moving forward whether we were ready or not. I thought about all the nights we used to sit here laughing, planning trips we couldn't afford, talking about children, talking about growing old together like it was guaranteed. Back then, forever felt automatic. Now it felt fragile. And the scariest part was nothing had happened. There was no betrayal, no explosion, no clear moment where things broke. Just life. Life had slowly, quietly taken pieces of us. Until one day, we noticed what was missing. "I miss you." The words left my mouth before I could stop them. She froze. Not dramatically, just enough that I knew she felt it, heard it, understood it. She didn't look at me immediately. Her eyes stayed on her hands. "I'm right here," she said softly. Her voice wasn't defensive. It was sad. That hurt more. "I know," I said, and I meant it. That was the problem. She was right here, and I still missed her. She finally turned to look at me, her eyes searching mine, trying to find something. An accusation, anger, blame, but there was none. Only fear. "I don't know how to fix it right now," she said quietly. Her honesty hit me harder than any lie could have, because it meant she knew. She had felt it too. Every silent dinner. Every night we fell asleep without touching. Every moment where love existed, but connection didn't. You don't have to fix it, I said, even as part of me desperately wanted her to. She shook her head slightly. I hate that I don't have anything left when I get home, she said. Her voice cracked just enough to reveal the exhaustion underneath. I hate that you get the worst version of me. That sentence broke something inside me. Because she was wrong. She wasn't the worst version of herself. She was the most human version. The version that trusted me enough not to pretend. But I understood why she felt that way. Because I felt it too. The version of me she got now wasn't the same man she fell in love with either. He was quieter, more careful, afraid of asking for too much, afraid of becoming another weight she had to carry. I'm scared, I admitted. The words were barely louder than a whisper. She didn't ask what I meant. She already knew. Her eyes filled slowly, not with dramatic tears, just quiet ones, the kind that come from truths you've been avoiding. I'm too, she said. And in that moment, something shifted, not fixed, not healed, but acknowledged. We weren't alone in this. We were both standing in the same storm, just too exhausted to reach for each other. I don't need everything to go back to how it was, I said. And that was true. I didn't need perfection. I didn't need passion every second. I didn't need the past. I just needed to know there was still a future. I just need to know we're still us. She stared at me, really stared, like she was memorizing my face, like she was afraid of losing me too. We are, she said, but there was uncertainty in her voice. Not because she didn't believe it, but because she didn't know how to prove it. She reached for my hand, slowly, carefully, like it had been a long time. Her fingers wrapped around mine, and for a second, everything stopped. Not because it fixed everything, but because it reminded me of something. We weren't strangers. We were just lost. Together. I love you, she said. The words were quiet, but real, and I believed her. That was never the problem. Love wasn't gone. It was buried, under stress, under grief, under exhaustion, under life. And love, I was learning, doesn't disappear. It waits. It survives. If you let it. That night, we went to bed holding hands. Not tightly, not passionately, just enough. Enough to remind each other we were still there. Still choosing each other. Still fighting. Even if we didn't know how to win yet. But as I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, I realized something I wasn't ready to say out loud. Love alone might not be enough to save us. And that thought terrified me more than anything else. Nothing changed overnight. That was the first thing I learned. There was no dramatic turning point. No sudden return to the way things used to be. No moment where she woke up full of energy and ran into my arms like something out of a movie. Real life doesn't work that way. The next morning, her alarm went off at 5:30 a.m. She groaned softly and reached to silence it, her movements slow and reluctant. I lay there beside her, pretending to still be asleep. Not because I didn't want to talk to her, but because I didn't want to make the morning harder. She sat up on the edge of the bed and stayed there for a moment, her shoulders slightly slumped, like she was gathering strength just to exist. I watched her quietly. This was the part no one saw. Not her coworkers, not her friends, not the world that admired her success. They saw the capable woman, the intelligent woman, the accomplished woman. I saw the cost. She stood up and walked toward the bathroom, her steps slow and heavy. The door closed gently behind her, and I realized something that made my chest ache. She wasn't choosing distance. She was surviving. That night, when she came home, she looked even more exhausted than usual. Her eyes had that faraway look again, the one that told me her mind was still somewhere else, still carrying the weight of the day, still carrying the weight of everything. How was work? I asked. It was a simple question, but it carried more meaning than it used to. She shrugged slightly. Long. That was all she said. Not because she didn't want to tell me, but because she didn't have the energy to relive it. She sat beside me on the couch. Not touching, just close. It was strange how much meaning existed in inches. There was a time when she would have curled into me without thinking, rested her head on my chest, let the silence feel safe instead of empty. Now, silence felt like something fragile, something we had to be careful with. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into routines. We became experts at functioning, experts at being polite, experts at loving each other quietly. But love wasn't the same as connection. Connection required energy, and energy was the one thing she didn't have. I told myself to be patient, told myself this was temporary, told myself love was stronger than exhaustion. But patience has a dark side. It gives fear time to grow. One night, I woke up around 2 a.m. I reached beside me instinctively. The bed was empty. My heart immediately sped up. Not from logic, from instinct. I sat up and looked around the dark room. The bathroom light was off. The hallway was dark. That's when I saw it. A faint glow coming from the living room. I got up quietly and walked toward it. And there she was, sitting on the couch, alone, her face illuminated by the soft blue light of her phone. She didn't notice me at first. She was staring at something, completely still. I stood there for a moment, watching her. She looked smaller somehow, not physically, emotionally, like the world had taken pieces of her she hadn't gotten back yet. "What are you doing up?" I asked gently. She flinched slightly, surprised. Then she looked at me. Her eyes were glossy, not crying, but close. "I couldn't sleep," she said. I walked over and sat beside her, closer than usual. She didn't move away. That alone felt like something. "What were you looking at?" I asked softly. She hesitated. Then she turned the phone toward me. It was an old photo of us, taken 23 years ago. We were standing on a beach. She was laughing, really laughing. Her head tilted back, her hand gripping mine like she never wanted to let go. I barely recognized the man standing beside her, not because he looked different, but because he looked certain. Certain about everything. Certain about the future. Certain about her. Certain about us. "I miss her," she said quietly. At first, I thought she meant herself, but then she squeezed my hand. "I miss us." Those 3 words hit harder than anything else, because they confirmed what I had been too afraid to say. She felt it too. The distance, the loss, the quiet fading of something neither of us had chosen. "You didn't lose me," I said. I wasn't sure if I was trying to convince her, or myself. She looked at me, really looked at me. "I know," she said, "but I don't know how to be her again." Her voice broke slightly, and in that moment, I understood something important. She wasn't pulling away. She was grieving, not just her mother, not just her health, but herself. The version of herself she used to be. The version of herself she didn't know how to get back. "You don't have to be her," I said. She frowned slightly, confused. "I love you," I continued. "Not the version from 23 years ago. Not the version from before all of this. You." She stared at me, silent, vulnerable. "But what if this is who I am now?" she asked. There was fear in her voice. Real fear. Not of losing me, but becoming someone unrecognizable. I didn't answer right away, because the truth was, I didn't know. Not completely. But I knew one thing. "I'm still here," I said, "and I'm not going anywhere." She leaned her head on my shoulder. For the first time in months. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't passionate. It was tired and real, and it meant everything. We sat there in silence, looking at the ghosts of who we used to be, and the uncertainty of who we were becoming. But as she sat beside me, I realized something I hadn't let myself admit before. Love wasn't the hard part. Staying was. And I was starting to wonder how much longer we could survive like this. Not because we didn't love each other, but because love was slowly being outpaced by reality. And for the first time in 25 years, I allowed myself to imagine a future without her. The thought made me feel physically sick, but it was there. And once a thought like that exists, it never fully leaves. There's a moment in every long marriage that no one prepares you for. It's not betrayal. It's not a screaming match. It's not a dramatic confession. It's a quiet realization. The realization that you are tired of being strong. And I hit that moment on a Tuesday. Nothing special about that day. No anniversary. No argument. No obvious trigger. Just a Tuesday. She came home late again. Traffic. A last-minute meeting. Something about a deadline being moved up. She looked drained. Not emotionally dramatic. Just hollowed out. "Sorry," she said as she dropped her bag by the door. That word again. Sorry. For being tired. For being busy. For not being enough. And I hated that she felt she had to apologize for surviving her own life. "It's okay," I replied automatically. But something inside me wasn't okay. We ate dinner across from each other at the kitchen table, the same table where we used to sit for hours. Now we barely made it 20 minutes. She pushed food around her plate more than she ate it. I watched her, not in accusation, in longing. I missed the way she used to light up mid-conversation. Missed how she would reach across the table just to touch my hand while talking. Missed feeling like I was part of her inner world instead of an observer. Halfway through dinner, she rubbed her temples. Headache? I asked. She nodded. I'm going to lie down. She kissed my cheek softly. Soft, gentle, quick. Then she walked down the hallway. And I sat there, alone, with 2 half-finished plates of food and a silence that felt louder than any argument we'd ever had. I didn't follow her. I didn't turn on the TV. I didn't scroll through my phone. I just sat there, and something inside me cracked. Not loudly, not dramatically, just enough. Because I realized something terrifying. I wasn't just lonely. I was starting to feel invisible. Not unloved. Invisible. There's a difference. Unloved feels like rejection. Invisible feels like absence. And absence is harder to fight. I went into the living room and sat on the couch. The same couch where we used to fall asleep watching movies. The same couch where we used to argue about what to name our future kids. The same couch where she had once climbed into my lap just because she could. Now it felt like furniture in a stranger's house. I leaned back and stared at the ceiling. And for the first time, the word formed clearly in my mind. Divorce. Not as a threat. Not as leverage. But as a possibility. The thought made my stomach twist. Because I didn't want to leave her. I wanted to feel wanted again. I wanted to feel chosen again. I wanted to feel like her partner, not her roommate. But how long could I survive like this? How long could I be patient? How long could I tell myself this was just a season? At what point does a season become a climate? I stood up and walked to the bedroom. She was already asleep, curled on her side, breathing softly, peacefully. I stood there watching her, and all I could see was the woman I had loved for 25 years. The woman who had stood beside me at funerals, at births, through financial stress, through health scares, through everything. She had never once abandoned me, not emotionally, not physically, and here I was, considering abandoning her. The guilt hit me hard, but so did the truth. I was drowning quietly, and loving someone doesn't mean you don't need oxygen. The next morning, I made a decision, not about divorce, about honesty, real honesty, the kind that risks everything. When she came home that evening, I didn't wait for the perfect moment. There isn't one. I need to talk to you, I said. She froze slightly. That sentence never means something light. She sat down across from me, her posture already tense. I took a breath. I don't want to leave you, I said immediately. Her eyes softened slightly. But I can't keep pretending I'm okay. Her face changed. Not anger, not defensiveness. Fear. The same fear I'd been carrying. I feel alone, I continued. And I know you're exhausted. I know you're grieving. I know your health has been brutal. I know your job is demanding. I know all of that. My voice shook slightly. But I'm still here. And I'm hurting. There it was. Not blame. Not accusation. Just truth. Her eyes filled instantly. I know, she whispered. No, I said gently. I don't think you do. Because I've been protecting you from how bad it's gotten. Silence filled the space between us. Heavy, raw, honest. I've started wondering what my breaking point is, I admitted. Her hand flew to her mouth, like I had physically struck her. That doesn't mean I want to leave, I added quickly. It means I'm scared of what happens if nothing changes. The tears fell freely now. I don't have anything left to give, she said, her voice breaking. I'm trying just to make it through the day. And there it was. The truth. Not that she didn't love me. That she was empty. We sat there crying together. Not dramatically. Not loudly. Just two people who loved each other and were both at the edge of their endurance. I can't quit my job, she said softly. I know. I can't magically fix my health. I know. I can't bring my mom back. I know. Her shoulders shook. I don't know how to be everything you need right now. That sentence hit differently. Because it wasn't defensive. It was devastated. I moved to sit beside her. Close. I took her hands. I don't need everything, I said. I need effort. I need to feel like we're fighting for this together. She looked at me through tears. I'm fighting, she said. Then let me see it, I replied gently. That night, something shifted again. Not fixed, but exposed. We weren't avoiding the problem anymore. We were staring directly at it. And that's when she said something that stopped me cold. "What if," she whispered, "I'm not strong enough to get us through this?" For the first time in months, I didn't feel fear. I felt clarity, because strength wasn't the issue. Isolation was. "We don't need you to carry this," I said. "We need to carry it together." And for the first time in a long time, she nodded, not out of exhaustion, but agreement. But deep down, I knew something. The next year, until the move, until the house was ready, until life simplified, was going to test us harder than anything had before. And the question wasn't whether we loved each other. It was whether love would be enough under pressure. As we turned off the lights that night, she reached for me first, wrapped her arm around my waist, held on a little tighter than usual. And I realized something. This wasn't the end, but it wasn't safety either. It was the middle. And the middle is where most marriages either quietly die or choose to fight. Nothing changed all at once. There was no single morning where we woke up and everything felt fixed. No sudden return of passion. No magical solution. Just small things, quiet things, fragile things. And somehow, those were the things that mattered most. A few nights after our conversation, I noticed something different. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't obvious. But it was real. She texted me. Not about groceries. Not about schedules. Not about responsibilities. Just thinking about you. That was it. 3 words. Simple. Insignificant to anyone else. But I stared at that message for a long time. Because it meant something. It meant that somewhere inside her exhaustion, inside her grief, inside her survival, I was still there. Not as an obligation. Not as a responsibility. But as a thought. A choice. The next week, it happened again. She reached for my hand while we were watching TV. Absent-mindedly. Like muscle memory. She didn't even seem to realize she was doing it. But I did. God, I did. Because it reminded me of something important. Love doesn't disappear all at once. And it doesn't come back all at once either. It returns the same way it leaves. Quietly. Gradually. In moments most people would overlook. We started talking more. Not about heavy things. Not about fixing everything. Just small conversations. A funny story from her work. A memory from years ago. A random thought. It wasn't the depth we used to have. But it was movement. And movement meant we weren't stuck. One night, she fell asleep on my shoulder again. Just like she used to. We weren't even watching anything important. Some forgettable show neither of us was paying attention to. But her head rested there. Her breathing slow. Her body relaxed. Trusting. And I realized something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Not certainty. Not security. But peace. The kind that exists in the present moment. Without needing guarantees about the future. The move was still months away. Her health wasn't magically fixed. Her job was still demanding. Life was still heavy. But something had changed. We weren't avoiding each other anymore. We were choosing each other again. In small ways. In quiet ways. In ways that didn't require energy we didn't have. Just intention. One evening, I found her sitting at the kitchen table, looking at something. She didn't notice me at first. When I walked closer, I realized what it was. Old photos. Dozens of them. Us at the beach. Us in our first apartment. Us laughing. Us young. She looked up at me. Her eyes soft. "I forgot how happy we were," she said. "You sat beside her." "We still can be," I replied. She didn't answer immediately, but she leaned her head against my shoulder. And that was her answer. Valentine's Day came again. The same store. The same aisle. The same wall cards. I stood there just like before, reading words written by strangers trying to define love. But this time, something was different. I wasn't looking for something to describe what we had lost. I was looking for something to describe what we still had. And I couldn't find it. Because love after 25 years isn't poetic. It isn't perfect. It isn't simple. It's choosing someone on the days when it's hard. It's staying when leaving would be easier. It's believing in something even when you're scared. So I did the same thing I had done before. I bought a blank card. That night, I sat at the kitchen table, pen in hand, heart open, and I wrote, "These past 2 years have been the hardest we've ever faced. Not because we stopped loving each other, but because life tested us in ways we never expected. I know you're tired. I know you're hurting. I know you're carrying more than anyone should have to carry. And I want you to know you don't have to carry it alone. I miss us, but I don't miss who we were. Because who we are now is stronger. Not because we didn't break, but because we didn't leave. I don't love you because life is easy. I love you because when life became hard, you were still the only place I wanted to stay. No matter what changes, no matter how long it takes, no matter how difficult the road becomes, I'm still here, and I'm not going anywhere. I left the card on the table for her to find in the morning. I didn't watch her read it. Some moments don't need witnesses. Later that day, she called me. She didn't say hello. She didn't say anything at first. I just heard her breathing, and then she said the words that mattered more than anything else. I'm still here too. That night, when we went to bed, she held me. Not out of fear, not out of obligation, but out of love. Real love. The kind that survives distance. The kind that survives exhaustion. The kind that survives time. I used to think love was measured by passion, by intensity, by closeness. But now I know better. Love is measured by who stays, by who fights, by who chooses you again. After every difficult season, we aren't fixed. We aren't perfect. We aren't the same people we were 25 years ago. But we're still here, still together, still choosing each other. And sometimes, that's the most powerful love story of all.